Hello everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. I am very excited to start my very first ever Brandon Sanderson book. So I have never read Brandon Sanderson before, and I've always been really scared too because his books are really interesting sounding and everyone who's ever read one loves it. So that's first of all intimidating because what if I'm the person who doesn't like Brandon Sanderson? What if that's the real thing that's going on? But also then, like, if you read one book, it's like a trilogy, which then ends up into being like a multi-book or multi-series world. And I'm like, that's a really big commitment. So I'm a little scared. However, I decided that this is my time to conquer the first book at least. So I'm going to be doing a spoiler-filled vlog. This is not something I know what I'm going to be saying yet, but I want to be reacting to the book. I want to be actually engaging with the material and saying my thoughts to you, my predictions to you, how I feel about what's on the page, and I don't know what's going to come. I genuinely don't know what's going to happen in this vlog, but I am excited. I am excited to read The Final Empire. This is my very first book. I found it on Brandon Sanderson's video that he talks about where to start. He mentioned himself that this is a good book to start with, so I'm going to start with this one. I mean, lots of people have also mentioned that this is a good place to start, but I'll take it from the author himself that Final Empire is a great place to start. It has a lot of buzzwords for me, which is also something that I really enjoy. So it has the heist element, and it has like what if the bad guys won element that I think that's about this book, but I don't know anything else. And I really don't want to know anything else. I have enjoyed fantasy at certain elements. So I'm excited to jump into this. I have it on ebook. So I'm ready to enter into this world. And I don't know what to expect, but you're coming along with me if you'd like. So if you are new here and you would like to subscribe, please do. And we're going to hopefully see if I like Brandon Sanderson. I really hope I do. I just really wanted to get on here quick and say I finished the prologue, and I'm really interested in this. It is so good so far. I really loved the setup of this. Kessler, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but this idea of the metals, and I'm sure everyone in the world has already read this book, okay? I'm sure of it, but I haven't. And so this is really interesting to me, and the way that he burnt down the house, and I'm just like, what's going to happen? The prologue was like so interesting. So I'm very excited to keep going. I'm not going to check in after every chapter, but the way it's been set up, I'm really loving it so far. So I just got to the beginning of chapter 4, so I finished chapter 3, and I am so excited about Vin and Kelser and Dawkins. I really am loving the dynamic, and I love learning about Vin's powers. I am loving this whole element. I think it's just so much fun, and I really enjoy how Vin doesn't know anything, so we're learning with Vin. But I really love Kelser. He's my favorite so far. He's just so good. And I'm really excited to see how this job is gonna go. I love heists. Heists are big things I really enjoy. So yeah, I'm really enjoying the characters we're meeting so far and how we're being introduced to all of these elements of metal intaking and what their powers are. And I really am enjoying also the use of metals and how they can manipulate people or do different things. I'm excited to see how that works down the line. I think I might be hooked into a new series, which is not something I need for 2022, but that's okay. I'm gonna move on to chapter 4 now. So it is now like 10:05 and I'm going to bed soon. I'm feeling really tired, but I want to update you. I've gotten 14% into The Final Empire, and I'm really enjoying it. So I just finished chapter 4, and these chapters are long. I'm not used to this in my normal books I read, but I'm okay with that. I'm really enjoying this. So I just finished the scene where they're told the plan that they're planning to take down the Final Empire, the capital or whatever, and kill, and also that Kelser wants to kill the Lord. And I'm like, this is so crazy, but I'm really enjoying it. So I really wanted to say the people we've met so far being Breeze and Ham and Yedden, I really think that it's an interesting crew. I really like how they're all being introduced, and how Vin is just like, these people are interesting. I don't know if I really like working with them all, but I'm good anyways. So I really like this element of it. And I am excited to see where it goes. But that's a project for tomorrow, because, or maybe later tonight if I'm not able to fall asleep, but I'm not going to do too much. I'm just gonna go to sleep now. But not too shabby for my first time picking up a Brandon Sanderson book. According to my ebook, I am like 85 pages into my 600-page book. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I have made progress. I'm in the middle of chapter 12, and I am really enjoying it. I enjoyed the teaching of the metal use and the different sessions of Vin learning how to be a young lady. Although we didn't really see much of that, which I'm appreciative of as well. I really enjoy all the different things we're learning. It's been a 5-star so far. It's perfect. And then I'm now at the part where I had to stop where I'm reading and not just keep going until the end of the chapter, where Vin saw her father in the ballrooms. So I'm in the ballroom scene right now, which is just like, okay. So her father is a nobility who she's going to now be interacting with, if he doesn't realize that his daughter is present, which is interesting. I mean, I didn't really look for that to be happening, but I guess maybe I should have seen that coming. So, yeah, okay, it's good. I did really want to say though that I really loved Vin learning how to control the metals, and when she suddenly woke up in the middle of the street, but like way above the street, that was terrifying because I'm scared of heights, and I would have been terrified. So, yeah, I am enjoying learning about the magic system though, and how the different things work in the world. I really am thankful that we got to learn all about that already. And it wasn't just thrown at us in the first like 10 chapters. Well, I guess technically it is the first 10 chapters, but it's not like within the first 50 pages. You know what I mean? Anyways, I'm going to get back into reading. So I made it halfway through the book now. I am 49% of my ebook, which is about halfway or just over halfway in physical form. And I am just after the second ball. So that's where I'm at. And I am not sure where this is going, to be honest. So we've already met Lady Shan, and the soothing aspect, and Kelser pretended to be the informant. And yeah, it's really picking up. Obviously, this has been a very fast-paced book so far, but it's picking up in regards to the heist element and where it's going, and they're picking up on the information getting and the steps that they're taking. So yeah, that's it for tonight though. I'm going to try finishing this off tomorrow, but I'm going to be done for today, and I have 300 pages left in my ebook, which is about 250 pages left in a physical book, I think, but I'm pretty happy. I'm finishing off on let me just check, chapter 19, finishing off that chapter, so beginning at chapter 20. Good morning. It is now the 28th, and I have just started reading the next chapter. And I read about how Marsh is teaching Vin how to test her metals and learn how to see what other metals people are burning and so, which was really interesting as well. And then I realized, I got to the next chapter where we discover that the text sections at the top of the chapters were actually the Lord Ruler's diary entries from before. So I was like, that's so interesting. Is it prophecy? Is it not? Well, I was reading that section. But no, I'm like, what is this? So cool. And I'm like, what does this mean? So just wanted to say that's really interesting. I'm really intrigued by that update. I also really wanted to mention that something I haven't mentioned already, which is the ska and how they're treated. And I think that this is a really interesting way of discussing the poverty and the way that people are treated with the slavery and the different elements of that. Obviously, this book is about, what if the bad guys won, but I do think this is a really interesting element of this discussion, because I just finished this part where they're talking about the difference between the ska versus the nobility, and how the ska can have like 12 children and the nobility don't. And it's like, well, that's a cultural thing. And how the ska are shorter, it's like, well, that's actually nutritional. And I think it's really important because it is actually just good discussion to have about this book. Whereas that's a real life issue, and yet at the same time, it's in a high fantasy book. And I think it's a good discussion to have because the ska are so impactful in the story, where, they're the ones who are going to be fighting against the higher up, the people who are challenging them, or the people who are ruling them. And these people who have been so beaten down over hundreds of years are the ones who are really reflective of the poverty, the ones who are beaten, the ones who are enslaved, the ones who are really trapped in this environment of this cycle of abuse and poverty and malnutrition. I think it's a really interesting thing to have in this book, and I think it's really good discussions that we're seeing pop up in this, and I am really engrossed in that level as well. So I haven't mentioned that yet, and I really wanted to. So yeah. So I have kept reading. You're going to see me in this position for a long time. But chapter 26, the beginning of part 4, this is so cool because this is not often said in books, but this is after the army was, they found out that the army was going to attack the rebels, and they were like running with the pewter metal in them, and they kept running for so long, and they had this big struggle. So it said Vin lay in her bed feeling her head throb, and it had been over 2 weeks, 15 full days, and her head still hurt. And I really love that it's talking about that. And if you are new to my channel and you're just watching my reaction to reading a Brandon Sanderson book for the first time ever, I have daily chronic migraines. And so to have that be in a book where someone's actually referring to the chronic pain or the long-lasting headache that she's struggling with, that's really cool. Obviously, this isn't something that she struggles with regularly, but to have a full-on 2-week-long headache and pain level, I really appreciate that in a book, even though it's like a not big thing, but I really love seeing that. So I had to mention that. I also am really enjoying how this is talking about that, different ailments, and the way that like they're, when they got hurt earlier on, when they were trying to get into the Lord Ruler's castle or palace, and the pain didn't go away for a very long time. I enjoy seeing the injuries that don't get healed instantly. So I think this is a really realistic interpretation of that. So I'm really happy. I also want to say, I'm now on chapter 27, I should say, but the execution scene was horrific. And I also think I should tell you, I really love Brandon Sanderson's writing. I think it's just so poetic and it's so visual. Like the way the scene was written, you could just picture the crowd and the executions of all the people. And it says, and another 4 died, and another 4 died. And it was just, oh my goodness. And now on to chapter 27, where it's like, and it was endless and hours, and then the bloodied water. And it's just like, you can picture in your head what's going on. I'm so glad I'm finally reading a Brandon Sanderson book. And I'm so glad I'm also like thinking about this instead of just reading on and like telling you my thoughts, because then I'm just not like flying through the book. I'm actually thinking about it, which is such a great thing too. So his writing is just so good and so perfect. So I've been reading some more, and I have loved the scene of Shan versus Vin on the rooftop. You can tell that rivalry was building throughout the whole book, so I really enjoyed seeing that develop, and that was so awesome to see Vin and her powers, because she's strong, but at the same time, you're like, that's really powerful for her so soon into her training to be able to attack and know what to do. So I thought that was really great. And then I am now at the part where Marsh just was killed and his note just got to them. And so they need to evacuate essentially and leave their current hiding place or their current safe house. That is just, I'm getting to the end. I'm like almost there. I have 100 pages left in my ebook and it is so good. It's so intense. Like what's going to happen next? And I'm obviously going to need to read book 2 in the near future. So this is why I didn't want to read Brandon Sanderson, because it's a commitment, but I'm excited to find out what happens next and how it's going to go. And I also want to say Elend, I really love seeing him as the character and the way he thinks that Vin is out to steal from him or something, but he doesn't know that she actually saved his life. That's so cool. I hope that he discovers her identity soon and that he'll actually join with them and not just be trying to change the world, be under, like, with the Lord Ruler still in power, but also wanting to, like, remove the Lord Ruler and join their side. So I hope that happens soon, but so good. So I am now in chapter 36, where they had the whole scene with Kelser fighting the, I can't remember the name now, but he killed him and then Kelser died. And that was like, what? Kelser died? And now they are rising up with Kelser being, like, his bones taken over by that person who was Rideau. And that's weird. And Vin is now Mistborn. I'm just like, I'm happy, but I'm also like, what? And then, of course, Eldon, Eldon, or Eldon, whatever. He is like, so he wanted to protect Vin, or Valette, who he thinks that's her name. So that's something I was like, oh, he's liking her. And he wants to protect her. So that's cool. But I'm like, okay, we have like 50 pages left, not even, in my ebook, 50 pages. And what's going to happen now? What's going to happen now? Of course, I'm going to have to read book 2. Okay. He died. And it was all building up to this. So now they have this grand plan to all take over their own little parts. And now all of the Ska in the city are going to rise up with them. I'm just like, of course this was building up. But I'm impressed. I want to say something before it gets too far in, but I'm in the scene where she's like just in the cell and she can't find any medals because she just burnt all of her medals from what they told her to do. And I'm like, she needs to use her earring. That's going to be the medal that she needs to use to kill. I think that's what I'm going to say. I'm predicting that right now. So I am now done Mistborn, or The Final Empire, the first book in the Mistborn trilogy or series, and I loved it. I couldn't put it down to talk about my thoughts for the last section, and man, I loved it. It was so good. It lives up to the hype. It was just incredible with all the characters and with the storyline and the world building. I was totally invested the whole time. Man, I loved also how Vin just really came into her own. Her character was so well developed. And I really, oh my goodness, I just loved everything. And Kelser, his character was just so well-rounded in all the different facets. And I loved seeing the different perspectives on different people. Yeah, man. And I also really loved that this world isn't all about magic, but it's about the metal burning. And I loved that twist on fantasy. I don't read a lot of fantasy, but that was a really great way to read it, or just develop a world. So that was so incredible too. Oh, I don't know what else to say. Yeah, so good. So to wrap up my thoughts. Okay, so first of all, one thing I really love is heists. heists in books. And I thought the heist in this aspect was really well done. I really loved how it went through all the different levels of what they would need to do, and some of the things they had to do were really crazy, but they managed to pull it off. And even when the little hiccups happened, or the big hiccups happened, they managed to work it out. I also loved how every member of the crew had a really important element to make. They all either taught Vin important lessons, or they had to play important roles as the book went on, or the series of events in the heist element went on. I also enjoyed how each crew member was different from each other. I could tell that they all had different personalities and they all worked together in different scenarios well. I also really appreciated that the way they treated the ska was really important. I thought that was a really great representation in there for the have and have not element. And I liked how Vin, when she was in high society, you could tell that she started to really adapt into that, as that's also something that she would totally do if they were doing that for multiple months and not just over a short period of time. Yeah, and that's something else. I really liked how this book happened over the course of many months, and so it wasn't just a quick 2-month sprint, and it ended up being many, many months. So that's also something great. And I liked how it didn't have, I mean, yes, like Vin ends up being the Mistborn of the book, but I liked how at the same time as that's the kind of unexpected but expected way to go, you do see that she has these amazing skills all along. And I think that that's really incredible too. So I really appreciate that. And I love that she learned so many lessons all the way through. And yeah, I don't know how else to say this, but I really enjoyed everything about it. It was such an incredible world and incredible characters, and the way they developed, each character was developed, and the writing, I just could see it all in my mind, and I think it was really incredible. So yeah, I also loved how one character had a limp, and that was just a part of life. So that was something incredible to see. So a little bit of disability rep in there. And I thought that it was also incredible with the pits. So like PTSD, those different things were also great to see. And I also love that Kelser was just like, I'm always light and I'm always crazy and I always do stupid stuff, and if people get along with me. I liked that personality, and I just, yeah. And then Marsh at the end, how he was like, I'm still alive, I couldn't tell you. Oh, and that end scene where she like takes down the Lord Ruler, where she just manages to figure out that all the medals were needed, and how she actually figures out how to take him down. It wasn't a special medal. It ended up being just taking off his medals. I thought that was really great too. So it wasn't anything super special or significant, but it was all of her abilities to survive up until that point. Yeah. 5 stars, perfection. And I will be reading book 2 next year. Don't you worry. I'm so glad I had such a great time reading Brandon Sanderson. I walked into this reading experience scared of a couple things. One, that it would not live up to the hype, because that's something when you see someone who's so hyped up or so prolific, you're like, is it gonna be that good for me? And it was. The second thing was, is this going to be something that I will enjoy, because it's not my type of genre? And it was. I loved all of the things about it, the buzzwords for me, the team element. It was really great. So I was very excited about that. And the third thing is that's a really big book to keep my interest like that. And I mean, not that big books don't keep my interest, because I read big classics, but I don't tend to read big books outside of that. And once I realized the chapters were like 20 pages long, that's something else that doesn't really pique my interest too much. I was totally on board for it all. So I'm really happy with everything about that book, and I'm so thankful I finally read it. I am so happy. I didn't tell anyone I was reading this, anyone online. So it's not on my Goodreads yet. It's not on anything, and I'm gonna wait to post that information until this video goes live. Yeah, this is my little surprise book. I've been actually waiting to read this book for a while and make this video for a while until I have the time to dedicate to reading vlog. So yes, my thoughts were all here. You were on with the ride with me for this little time. of me reading my very first ever Brandon Sanderson, and I can tell you it won't be the last. So thank you so much for joining me on this reading journey. So please let me know down below if you've read Brandon Sanderson before, or if you've read the whole trilogy. I am sure most people have at this point, and if you have watched this whole video, I'm sure you have. But please let me know how soon I should pick up book 2, because I feel like I will pretty soon. But I am excited to chat about all the spoilery things with you in the comments below about this book. Also, please subscribe if you are new here, and like this video if you enjoyed it. And I will see you tomorrow for another day of Vlogmas. Bye for now.